you know.
Speaking of fear-mongering, do you think that like people like Alex Jones are doing the same thing on the same level as Glenn Beck?
Well, I like Alex Jones, but my only problem is with people who listen to Alex Jones and like, because like for me, I've been studying this thing for like 7 years or whatever. So like, if you get stuck on that same thing, the prison planet perspective all day, every day, and never kind of move through the shadow, I think that's harmful. And because I'm like one of these crazy metaphysical guys where I'm like, whatever you put your attention on is what you provide your energy to. So if day in and day out you're just like this negative energy of being alienated from your own government and just like every day waking up and thinking about what's wrong with a situation, to me energizes the wrong of that situation. So you've got to be able to learn that stuff, move through it, and learn that you need to adjust your thought patterns to control your own life into a positive dimension. You know, you can't get caught on that part. It's good to learn it like anything. It'd be like learning math or science. It's like you're always learning new theorems or whatever it is, but you don't just stay in one. It's always a process of learning. That's how the truth movement is for me. Like, I've got to always be ready to go to whatever I thought last year ago, oh, maybe I was wrong, or maybe it's changing now, or it's more complex than what I thought, you know.
Do you have a response that you'd want to give about Tech Nine's last album that he had, and I guess the dark overtones that it took to it lyrically?
Be more specific, like...
I mean, it's pretty out in the open. People talk about it being almost satanic and how dark of a tone it took.
Well, I think he's probably just,
is that a gimmick, or is that for real?
I don't think Tech uses gimmicks, that's for sure, because he has enough talent not to have to do that. I really would just say it's his way of expressing himself through the art, and I would definitely not want to take it literally or draw any like serious insight about Tech or so-called devil worship or whatever, because that would be that to me would be taking it too far. You know, it's an artist expressing himself, and it's art regardless, you know. So it's important to divide the artist from the true man that is Tech Nine or whatever, you know. I'm sure it's coming straight from his heart, but sometimes I know as a writer, when you speak from your heart, it's how you're feeling at one moment. It doesn't define your entire being, you know.
Right. Medical marijuana in California, I guess it's going to be up for vote to decriminalize it in the fall. What do you got on that? Any thoughts?
Well, I think they might as well decriminalize it, because I don't agree with putting people in jail or prison for fucking weed. It's just ridiculous. So
yeah.
I would totally back that, you know. It's better to just legalize it and have better control of it. Then you won't have like young kids smoking it, hopefully, but I totally back it.
Who are some of the bands right now that you are listening to?
Well, I'm not really good on listening to contemporary bands, so
just sticking to the classics?
I just listen to the classic old punk rock and maybe some, you know, I'm trying to think of what I listen to, some obscure dub CD or reggae CD, and I love like Jay-Z or whatever, you know. So, but besides that, like if I'm gonna put a mixtape together, it's gonna have like The Clash and Minor Threat on it, and you know, then some Jay-Z and fucking Sex Pistols and Black Flag, and maybe I'll even throw like a Zeppelin tune on. You know, I'm always just listening to classic stuff. I'm kind of out of touch.
You mentioned Jay-Z. Do you have any response? I guess there's a lot of stuff coming out in the open now, or supposedly coming out in the open, about how mainstream music is controlled by the powers that be, or whatever.
I've definitely read about it before, and I definitely think there's, from my assessment, there's probably a lot of truth behind that. Because, you know, there's a lot to be said about the power of music over a culture or whatever, you know. So and the way that like gangster rap has been just like popularized way beyond any other sort of hip hop to me is done on purpose to glorify the violence, and I'm a fan of the genre, don't get me wrong, but I think it's been overdone to like influence the kind of the black male youth population into like maybe thinking that they're gonna go through some kind of Hollywood style gangster career, when in fact it mostly leads to death or prison. So I have my concerns there, and I think it is done on purpose, and I think a lot of the music is like dumb and can dumb a person down, but
Is there a line you have to draw? Like you said, you listen to Jay-Z. I mean, he owns Rockefeller Records.
I have to say there's still great bands. Like, I don't know too many contemporary bands, but like System of a Down or whatever. Jay-Z's like, I just feel he's a great artist and a great poet or whatever. So he came from the projects and he did his thing and came up out of poverty and whatever. But I don't know. It just seems like to just flood the market with only that type of crack-selling gangster hip-hop is like, oh, really? That's why acts like Tech Nine and ICP do so great, because they're like creative in a way that mainstream music, it's too well thought out for mainstream music,
If you had one thing that you wanted college students to know today, what would it be?
Really? Because I don't know what they do know. But I would encourage college students to check into this whole free energy extraterrestrial disclosure project thing, because I think it's important for the next generation of well-studied individuals in this country, especially because other countries are more like letting out the files and everything, to know about, like, if you're going to major in energy or whatever inventions or whatever, that you realize that there's all this advanced technology out there that needs to be brought forward. And I think the next generation of earthlings need to think really far ahead.
So you mentioned earlier you got the album coming out in October. What's going to surround that? Another tour? You guys going to be touring?
I don't know. We haven't figured it out yet. So I think we're trying to hopefully go on like maybe out with a heavy metal band. But if not, we'll just do our own fucking Truth Rising tour, around October. And we'll go that route. Unless someone wants to take us on tour. But if not, we'll do our own tour.
What's in the future for Head PE after this next album?
Well, it's hard to predict the future, but it seems like we're on just a good path of constantly releasing relevant material that's kind of extremely socially significant. So it's just like more than music, where like-minded people can get together and know that humanity's heading in the right direction, and kind of, it's just more than music, it's more than coming and hearing some tunes. It's more like a social experience,
Awesome. Well, that's all we got for you, man.